Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech, and in this video, I'll be reviewing the Motorola E6s. I've already posted the unboxing video, so check that out for the complete specifications, physical overview and initial impressions. Motorola has been pretty aggressive recently. They've launched a lot of phones under 15,000 rupees price segment, and Moto E6s was just launched at 8,000 rupees. It's not cheap, but for Moto, that's being aggressive, especially considering all the things it offers. That's mainly that 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. It's probably the best phone Motorola has ever launched in terms of value for money under 10,000 rupees. Now I've divided this review into the pros and cons section. So first I'll start with pros and then go to the cons. So if you're bored anywhere or if you're in a hurry, just skip to the cons section or at least hear the conclusion. Now the best thing about this phone is definitely its form factor. In terms of design, it is pretty plain. You get a removable back panel which is super thin, and on the back you get this mirrored finish if you have the polished graphite color. It is kinda slippery and a fingerprint magnet, but if you could use this free case that we get inside the box, you can deal with it a bit. Now about the form factor, this phone weighs just 149 grams and has a thickness of 8.6 mm. In hand it doesn't feel all that thick and it feels super light. Technically it's not a small phone, but if you're someone like me with bigger hands and you want something that fits pretty comfortably in your hand, then this is the one to go. So that's the best thing about this phone. Now in the hardware department, it has all the basic sensors. It even has an ambient sensor which works pretty well. It also has a fingerprint scanner on the back and it's pretty fast. It's not as fast as the Oppo and Vivo phones, but it is still pretty fast and usable. And even when you use the right fingerprint, you get a nice haptic feedback, which I really miss on other phones. Now the haptic engine on this phone is kinda okay. It's not great, but it is definitely better than most phones in this price segment. So that's definitely one of its pros. Now this phone also has FM radio, just in case if you're wondering. This phone also has support for dual SIM and also has a dedicated SD card slot if you need extra storage. We also have face unlock feature which works pretty well in good lighting conditions. It even works in low lighting conditions, but it is slightly slower, takes like 2 to 3 seconds more. But in complete darkness, it fails most of the time. Fingerprint scanner on this phone is pretty reliable and pretty fast, so I never had to use the face unlock feature. Now the next best thing about this phone is definitely its display. This phone has a 6.1-inch IPS display with HD+ resolution with 19.5:9 aspect ratio and a dot notch. Viewing angles are good, color reproduction is specifically pretty good. In terms of sunlight legibility, it's not that great, especially in direct sunlight, but still it is pretty usable. Even though this phone has just HD+ resolution, I couldn't notice any pixels on regular usage. Even while watching videos, I couldn't notice much difference. But while playing games like Asphalt 9 or PUBG, you will find the display to be slightly pixelated. Now when it comes to performance, this phone sports a MediaTek Helio P22 processor with PowerVR GR8320 GPU. Now this is a pretty old CPU, these are the benchmark scores for a quick reference, but it's still pretty good for regular usage. On normal usage, everything was pretty smooth and I didn't notice any lag whatsoever. With that said, yes, on intensive usage, let's say you're downloading something or you're doing a lot of multitasking, we can notice some lag. For a normal user, it's definitely not going to be an issue. You get 4GB of RAM on this phone and memory management is also pretty good. So most of the applications, like smaller ones, are still in memory even after some time of usage. So once again, that's gonna add for the overall experience. Now when it comes to software, this phone has pure stock Android. There's no bloatware at all. In fact, there are very few Motorola applications as well. There are no Moto actions. You get just few gestures, like you can press the power button twice to open the camera application, which is a gesture from Google, and you also get the new Android Pie based navigation bar, which works really well on this phone. You can just click the home button to go home. You can swipe it up to open recent apps. You can also do a swipe right gesture on the home button to quickly switch between the current application and the previous application. So this new navigation bar works really well on this phone, and you also get a pretty decent haptic feedback every time you use it. And just in case if you don't like this new navigation bar, you can go back to the 3-button navigation bar just like on previous Android phones. Now this is the about page. This phone is still running Android 9, that's Android Pie, and it is the August security patch. So overall software experience has been pretty good. Everything is pretty smooth, just like you would expect with stock Android, and that's it. No fancy features, but everything looks clean and neat. Now in the audio department, this phone has a single speaker at the bottom and it is decently loud. It's not super loud, but loud enough for regular media consumption, ringtones and alarms. And audio experience over headset and Bluetooth were also pretty average. They work, there are no issues, and there isn't anything to brag about either. Now finally, when it comes to battery, this phone has a 3000 mAh battery, which is kinda small when you compare to other phones, but it's still pretty good and it can definitely last you an entire day. You get a regular 10 volts power adapter inside the box. Even though Moto calls it rapid charger, there's no fast charging and this phone doesn't support fast charging. It takes almost 4 hours to charge this phone completely from 0 to 100%. If you're a very normal user who doesn't play games, watch a lot of videos, or doesn't even use social media apps a lot, then battery life on this phone is pretty good for you. So guys, those were all the pros and the okay stuff about this phone. Now let's look at the cons. In the hardware department, this phone doesn't have a gyroscope and there's no compass either. So if you're someone who uses Google Maps a lot, especially offline navigation, then it's gonna be a problem for you. If you use Google Maps on mobile data, you can manage to some extent even without a compass. Next, there's no wideband L1 support on this phone. So you can't watch high definition videos on Netflix or Amazon Prime on this phone. For the screen size, I don't think it's a big issue, but if you're too picky about the resolution and you want high definition video on this phone, then it's going to be a major problem. Next, cameras on this phone are pretty average. Now considering the overall package, pricing, and as it's a Motorola phone, cameras are good. Especially the front camera on this phone is better than the rear camera. But if you consider the competition, say like the Samsung M10s or the Vivo U10, then cameras on this phone are just pretty average. Now when it comes to gaming experience, yes, you can play some smaller games without any issues, but if you're a heavy gamer, especially if you're looking forward to play PUBG on this phone, then the gaming experience won't be that great, once again, when you compare it with the competition. So if you're a gamer who especially likes to play games like PUBG, then this is definitely a big con. Now the next issue has to do with the updates. Now this phone is not part of Android 1 program, so it will not receive regular software and security updates. It will receive them, but it will be pretty slow. Well, in the long term, it will receive software updates, but it won't be that regular. And if you're someone who wants regular software and security updates, you want Android 10 on your phone, then this is something to consider. Now finally, this phone has a pretty small battery. If you're a normal user, as I've said, it can easily last you an entire day. But if you're a heavy user who travels out a lot, then once again, it's going to be a problem. So finally, should you buy it or not? Well, the answer depends upon you. What is it that you want? If you're looking for a phone that is lightweight, that fits pretty comfortably in a single hand, that has pure stock Android fingerprint scanner and a very smooth user experience, then this is definitely the best phone for you. But if you're looking for bigger battery life or better performance, especially for gaming, or better cameras, then this is not the best pick for you. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. If you want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter and we will try to make it as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.